Imagine for a moment that saxophone didn't just fall. I'm sorry about that. Imagine for a moment that you're part of a jazz ensemble, and each of us has an instrument. You're surrounded by your closest family members. Think about friends, think about family, neighbors, pets. Pick an instrument that you want to play, or one that you already do play. And if you don't play an instrument, just pretend that you can and that you're really good at it. You're surrounded by a symphony of possibilities comprised of all of the people that you cherish, and yet you still have the freedom to play, to experiment, and to create whatever you want. Sounds pretty fun, right? I think so too. You all just got a glimpse into something that, in my humble opinion, can do so much good in this world. Folks, today I have the unique opportunity to talk to you about something that has been near and dear to my heart these past 5 years. The concept of playing jazz in your everyday life. Now, you might hear that and think, who do you think you are telling me to pick up an instrument and learn how to play music? But my intentions, thankfully, are not for anyone to do that. So, what do I mean? How can playing jazz extend beyond the confines of a musical context, reach into the very fabric of our everyday lives, and shape the way we navigate the world? 5 years ago, I became interested in jazz music, as is natural for a 12-year-old to do. I hadn't ever listened to the music before as the son of 2 Asian immigrant parents, and it interested me. So I listened to a ton of records on Spotify. I watched Tom Hanks play a jazz-loving Slavic man in the terminal, and I abandoned my classical clarinet playing for the shinier and more appealing saxophone. I thought I was super cool, listening and grooving to all these tracks, and I remember like it was yesterday, hearing the blazing chord changes of John Coltrane's Giant Steps, or the phenomenal soloing of Hank Mobley's Soul Station. As my interest in the music grew, my interest in the musicians also grew tenfold. I loved their dedication to the craft and how they spent countless hours immersing themselves in the intricacies of their instruments. I loved the passion and fun they had on stage, and how they didn't take themselves too seriously. But perhaps most importantly, I loved how every note that these jazz musicians played, they played like it was an expression of their soul. Over the past 5 years, I've been able to get closer and be more involved with the jazz community, and I think I'm ready to spill some secrets. I believe that there are 3 performance traits that a jazz musician has that are key to living a healthier and better life. While these 3 traits lead to success on stage, I believe that it's important for all of us to keep these in mind. The first trait that jazz musicians possess is a trait of closeness. Jazz musicians need closeness. As this image from the University of Washington shows, we like to perform in small combos of trios, quartets, or quintets, where physical proximity on stage is extremely crucial for hand gestures, wiggly eye movements, and the such. And those visual cues, those visual expressions, are what pave the way for mental closeness, where jazz musicians practically read each other's minds. Things like setting up a ragtime feel or closing it all out with a classic ending. And all of this leads to a performance that is simply better. The concept of closeness is not a new thing, and it has been heavily researched. A study from Harvard Health Review showed that a lack of close physical relationships increases the risk of death by 50%. That's roughly the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes every day. And this is just one of many studies showing that the concept of closeness shouldn't die at the stage doors. So how can we use closeness in our everyday lives the same way that jazz musicians do on stage? Well, once again, I believe it starts with physical closeness. So go hug a friend. Drive for miles, show up for them when they have important moments in their lives. Engage in those deep conversations. Watch that movie you've always wanted to watch and go to that restaurant with them, because those acts of physical closeness maybe, just maybe, will lead the way to mental closeness. Just as jazz musicians are able to practically read each other's minds and seamlessly transition ideas between each other, we too may begin to see the ideas running through our friends' heads too. You may notice that your friend is upset when you invite her out to coffee and she isn't her normal cheerful self. You may notice that your brother is really excited to play that new PlayStation game. And maybe, just maybe, you'll remember that birthday that you always forget. That's what closeness can do. The second of the 3 performance traits that jazz musicians have is happiness. Now, jazz musicians, upon hearing that that trait exists, they'll be like, no, you're lying, that's not true, because I'm not happy. I don't get paid enough, my music isn't appreciated, and my parents think I'm a total failure, and that might be true for some. But jazz musicians will also be the first to tell you that there's a moment when we step out on stage, take a deep breath, and begin to play. And that feeling we get is nothing short of the purest happiness. I know that when I came out here, stepped out on stage, took a deep breath, and experienced that feeling, the notes that formed in my brain fly into my fingers just that much quicker, and I'm able to play the music that I love the best. Well, of course, until the saxophone fell. The concept of happiness is very important in our everyday lives. Happiness helps with so much. It helps with increasing problem solving and lowering your blood pressure, as well as keeping a normal body weight through better sleep. Yeah, happiness is really good for you. So how can we access these sweet perks of a smile? Well, I'm not gonna stand up here and tell you how to find your own happiness. I think that's something that you can do on your own accord and do best. But what I will say is that happiness can't always find you. We can't expect to sit in the same place and expect happiness to strike us square in the chest every time. So I invite you all to consider a new way of looking at happiness. In a jazz ensemble, motifs are really important for solos. They will visit motifs over and over again in a solo, repeating them to tell a story. Just as jazz musicians can revisit these motifs, I believe that all of us can revisit our own happiness, repeat it over and over again to tell our own story. And this is not a new concept. The Declaration of Independence is glaring evidence of that. But it is a concept that is often forgotten, I think. We forget that we can pursue our own happiness. Right now, some of you may be thinking of painting, horseback riding, knitting, volleyball, things that make us happy, and that's great. So now what I humbly suggest for you is this. Go back to those as often as you can with the intention of creating your own happiness. Because once we remember to create our own happiness, we remember that we have the freedom to do so. And that is one of the best discoveries that we can make. Finally, the last performance trait that jazz musicians possess is the ability to improvise. Jazz musicians thrive in this deep, dark realm of uncertainty where the pianist might play something like, and the saxophonist would answer, obviously this isn't a piano, but you get the idea. The best jazz musicians are able to demonstrate in their playing that greatness lies not in rigid adherence to the script, but in the ability to take risks and the willingness to do so. This is the trait that I am most excited to talk to you all about, not because of its importance, even though it is very important. Being off the cuff has been shown to help with so many things, including creativity, well-being, and social anxiety. But while those things are important, the reason why I'm most excited to share this trait with you all is because I know that the majority of you, if not all of you, are scared to improvise. That's right, I'm calling you out, and I expect you all to be scared. The concept of doing something and not knowing the final result is terrifying simply because of all of the things that could go wrong. And I understand that. So if improvisation is a puzzling subject to you, let me try and help you piece it together. And the puzzle piece I will leave for you all today is the puzzle piece of spontaneity. In the context of jazz, what does spontaneity mean? Well, Simply put, if something doesn't go to plan, pivot. See what I did there? If a jazz musician plays a wrong note in a solo, they don't consider it to be a wrong note. No, it's not a wrong note. It's the first note of this brand new and totally incredible, totally awesome improvisational idea that might just sound pretty good. Now, just like happiness, spontaneity isn't something that can just happen. We have to make it happen. If you have a weekend off, go buy some popsicles, or get a pet fish, or fly to Kansas, or do something that doesn't require an expendable income. And being spontaneous is good for you. Studies have shown that being spontaneous is really good for people's health. People enjoy things more when they're impromptu. It increases cognitive function, and perhaps more importantly, you can get out of bed in the morning because you don't know what the day holds for you. We can't always jump to spontaneity, and not everything will work. But without trying, we won't know the things that do work. So let's embrace the spirit of spontaneity. Let's dare to step into the unknown, and by doing things we didn't know we could do, we discover in ourselves things that we love to do. So now as I close, let's reimagine that imaginative exercise we began with. Picture yourself once again in this jazz ensemble, surrounded by all the people that you love. But now, instead of just one small ensemble, let's imagine a giant ensemble of all of us together, comprising of everyone you have and will ever meet. To give you some context of what that looks like, I'm just gonna keep clicking here and talk. Now you have the secrets of the jazz musician's trade. In this massive ensemble, let's use physical and mental closeness. Firstly, with physical and mental closeness, you're able to harmonize with your coworkers, your pals, your friends, uninvited wedding guests, family, all of those people. In this ensemble, you're able to talk and engage in happiness. You're able to find your own happiness, even in the smallest and crummiest of days. And finally, you improvise spontaneously through it all with all of your bandmates, doing things you didn't know you could do. So I leave you with this. Instead of a world dominated by polarizing opinions, convenience, and self-loathing, let's create a world of jazz musicians. In turn, we may see that our life becomes a celebration of the messy, beautiful, and ever-evolving journey of being human. Thank you.